Hello, welcome back. This is Jeff Byers and this is ANY255, and we're going to be talking about dynamics, and specifically rigid body dynamics and passive body dynamics. So what are those two? So easiest to just show you so you can get an idea. Okay, we'll start with poly modeling, and you can select curves and surfaces, so if you want to use NURB surfaces you can use those two as well. It won't work with curves though. You can't draw a curve and expect it to react to dynamics. So we're going to click on a sphere. I'm just going to move that up like that, and then I'm going to create a cube for the ground. We're just going to keep it super simple. So squash that down, scale that up to about the size of the grid. There we go. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select everything. I'm going to delete by type history and freeze transformations, okay, on both of those before I start. And then the best thing you want to do now is you want to make sure that you save your scene so you don't have to go through this again. A lot of students forget to save their scene before they start the dynamics, and then if they mess up they have to remodel everything, because it's really hard to get dynamics off of objects. What happens, even if you can get it off, there's some attributes that still hang on, and it's almost impossible to get all of it out. So those attributes that hang on to something can cause you problems later on, and you have to end up doing it over again anyway. So the best thing you can do, delete by type history, freeze transformations on your objects, and then when you're done with that, go ahead and file, save scene as, and make sure you save your scene before you add dynamics. Okay. Next thing I'm going to show you is that we need to do the usual time slider. Click on play every frame, 24 frames per second times 1. Make sure you save that. Make sure you set it up to a higher range with dynamic simulations. Just do something like 400, and then click on save. Okay, so now we need to add the active rigid body. So what is an active rigid body? Well, meaning that it will react to other objects. So if I drop the ball and gravity takes over and then the ball hits the ground, it'll bounce back up. Okay, that's an active rigid body. If you have two balls and one runs into another one, that's active rigid bodies. If you have a floor, that's considered a passive rigid body. That means it's not moving. It won't react to the object. So it would be funny or weird if I had both of those as active rigid bodies. One had gravity, one didn't. It would act really strange. We'll play with that a little bit, but we don't want that to happen. We want the ball to react to the floor and the floor stay put because it's got more mass. It's not going anywhere, and the ball will bounce off. Okay, that's the idea. So with all that done, we can go in here and hold down the space bar, and if you're not set up for FX, then go to Hotbox Controls, go to Show FX and FX Only. Now you only have the bottom line you have to worry about. So go to Fields and Solvers and click on Create Active Rigid Body. Okay. And then we're going to turn this into a passive rigid body. Okay. And then we're going to add a gravity to the object. So we're going to Field Solvers, Gravity, and we're going to reset this. So Edit, Reset Settings, Negative Direction, 9.8 for magnitude. And let's go ahead and play the animation. There we go. Okay, great. So that is dynamics. Okay. Alright, so let's take a look at the outliner. A lot of times I like to have that on. Alright, so get this set up here real quick. Alright. So we got our gravity, we got our sphere, we got our cube. Pretty simple. That's about the simplest dynamic simulation you can do. It's very simple. We're not really changing anything. It's not rolling. It's not doing anything crazy like that. And that's it. So the dynamic simulation is complete. Now we can make things, we can change things a little bit. Now if you look at the lesson content, lectures, and video tutorials, that's where this video tutorial's in. Open that up and go to active rigid body options. So if we have, it's like anything else, let's go ahead and go into attributes of this rigid body here. You can see that we have our mass. Alright, so the weight of the object, you know, Bottle Effects has density, so basically the mass is basically the weight. Okay, so one weighs more than another. If we have two balls hitting each other, this one has a mass of 1 and the other one has a mass of 0.5. That means this one would plow through it, move it, and we'll look at that in just a little bit. Static friction. Okay, these are a little harder to understand. You have to kind of play with them, and I usually keep them both at the same. They both play off each other. That's the best thing to how to describe it. But at 0, that means it is like ice. Okay, and the more you add, if you go, it goes from 0 to 1, and 1 is being the stickiest, has the most friction. Okay, like glue. Okay, so be careful how you use those. Again, 0 is it's going to slip and slide all over the place. Won't have any. Now you're not going to see that here though. Okay, if I click on that, because it's not moving, it's just moving up and down. Okay, so you're not going to be able to see what the static friction will do with this. Okay, only when you're rolling across or moving it, or it's going in different directions, are you going to see that. The bounciness. Okay, well, we can turn it so to something like 0.1, and when we play that, you can see that it will bounce up a little higher. Oh, I'm sorry, the bounciness goes down because I turned it down. And we can go, I think we can go higher than 1. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and play it. There you go. It's just actually gaining energy, which is ridiculous. Super ball on steroids. I don't think that'll actually look good. So usually you put it at 0.5. Try that for a bouncy ball. Okay. Now you notice how slow it's going. It doesn't look right, does it? Yeah. That's what I was talking about. So when we go in here, I'm going to turn on wireframe. A lot of times I'll turn on the wireframe just so we can see the object better, especially if I have a floor that's the same color. There we go. So now we can see it. So if we go on here, we can see that we've got bounciness, we got dampening. Again, we're not be able to use some of this stuff because it won't make any sense to use it on just an up and down motion. So I'm going to turn these back to 0.5. And the bounciness at 0.5, that's good. Alright, so go back into the settings preferences, and you can see that if we go to 24 frames per second times 2, save it, now we can see it's going to play twice as fast, and that looks more realistic, doesn't it? Alright, so that is the basics. Okay, so let's get into something a little more interesting. So in the next video, we're going to go and be able to see static friction, dynamic friction, dampening, and impulse in action. And that'll be in the next video. I'll see you then.